The world of video games is no stranger to platformers. Everything from Mario Bros. To Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Prince of Persia to Uncharted Drake's Fortune have shown us that a good idea can be both expanded upon and improved with the right amount of care. Swedish developer DICE is, however, not very familiar when it comes to platformer games, and this may concern some given the drastic departure the studio has taken from its roots in the Battlefield series. While such fears are understandable, Mirror's Edge isn't a bad first attempt at a new concept, but it isn't exactly perfect either.
The changes came slowly at first. Most didn't realize, or didn't care, and accepted them. They chose a comfortable life. Some didn't. And those who refused to conform were pushed to the sidelines, criminalized. They became our clients.
Living in a near-future world dominated by an oppressive autocratic government means all communication is closely monitored. People wishing to communicate without the knowledge of the authorities enlist the help of runners, a sort of underground coalition of couriers who shuttle information back and forth across the city. The authorities tend to treat the runners with a mild neglect, but this tolerance has come to an end. Just as the game begins, the runners are quickly targeted by the boys in blue without any apparent reason. Among those in the crosshairs is Faith, a runner who sets out to discover why the police have begun cracking down on the runners and ends up stumbling upon a conspiracy within the despotic government. The story is not the best part of the game. While it's not badly written, it could have been presented in a more interesting fashion. Several in-engine cutscenes do appear, albeit very rarely, but the majority of the story is told through 2D animated cartoons, which come off as contrived and make the overall game feel unfinished. Platforming has by now evolved from an entire genre of games to a basic gameplay mechanic found in many games of many genres. It's rare to see a game that focuses almost exclusively on the concept, and it's because of this that Mirror's Edge commands attention. This is indeed the first time we've ever seen a platformer game from the first-person perspective, making Mirror's Edge stand out from other games come before it. Think of it as a first-person Prince of Persia with guns. The general parkour gameplay is executed with 3 buttons, allowing you to perform a wide array of different moves. These moves can be chained together, giving the player a nice sense of flow as they platform across the dizzying city heights. Every maneuver also has a good sense of weight and momentum. You actually get the feeling that you're fighting against gravity to perform these acrobatic moves, and this really keeps the player immersed in the core gameplay. With such a wide city around you, getting lost wouldn't seem like an uncommon thing. Thankfully, the game lends a hand to easily confuse players through runner vision, a mechanic that highlights the likely path ahead with a bright red tint. The different moves you can execute are varied enough to keep things fresh for most of the game, but it can still feel a little repetitive sometimes. The repetition isn't game-breaking, but it should still be noted. Mastering the control scheme is difficult at first, but once you get a feeling for the way the game controls, it's much more rewarding. Players will take on escape, pursuit, and objective-seeking goals across the game's 9 missions. Each mission is either focused entirely on one of these 3 concepts, or it mixes them together. Faith will often need to sneak her way into a specific location, then after getting what she came for, she's forced to flee in the face of an overwhelming enemy force. Fighting consists of hand-to-hand attacks, context-sensitive disarms, and blasting enemies away with a modest arsenal of firearms. Boss fights are virtually non-existent, and you'll spend most all your time beating common grunts to a pulp with your bare hands. When enemies lack in wits, they make up for in firepower, and using the bad AI as a crutch doesn't always take. Stupid people with guns can still kill you just the same. The reflex-rewarding disarm moves can be unforgiving and feel somewhat artificial. Even so, successfully disarming an opponent can be equally rewarding, as you come out on top with one less enemy to deal with, and a mean-looking gun with a clip full of hurt. The guns are limited by their ammunition capacity. You're not allowed to pick up extra ammo to reload, and carrying anything other than pistol-sized weapons also limits your movement to basic jumps, meaning you'll need to ditch the really meaty stuff if you want to finish the level. Faith isn't very durable either, and while her health regenerates like a lot of video game characters nowadays, she can't take more than 1 or 2 hits before she goes down. Keep in mind, this is a platformer, not a shooter, and the same care should be applied both to how you traverse each rooftop as well as how you dispatch each enemy. Everything about the game flows together very well. The overall gameplay is fairly simplistic, but still manages to overcome the handful of flaws in its design. The art direction is particularly unique. Every environment is painted with just primary colors that give the game a striking sort of visual style. The one drawback to this is because every environment is colored in just black, white, red, yellow, or green, the levels can look a little too repetitive sometimes. But at least it's consistent. And of course, there is no backtracking whatsoever, which is always a plus. One of the major drawbacks to Mirror's Edge, however, is its short length. Hardly lasting 4 to 6 hours, even on its most difficult mode, the game can literally be finished in a single sitting, assuming you don't spend extra time looking for the bags hidden throughout each level. This short playtime, coupled with the largely underwhelming story, and a time trial mode being the only content apart from the campaign, doesn't give players much incentive to play through more than once, much less spend their money doing so. What we have here is a great looking game with an attractive concept that could have been amazing if they had taken some time to expand upon the scope of the game, make actual cutscenes to tell the story, and maybe double or even triple the length and difficulty of the campaign. A competitive race mode would also have been a pretty cool feature to include as an alternative to the campaign, but that's just a suggestion. Mirror's Edge is well executed considering that it's the first platformer game made by DICE, but the short length just leaves you feeling a little cheated somehow. That being said, the one time you actually do play is still an enjoyable experience while it lasts.